perhaps just a listing of some of the baggage will cause you to identify yours. I'm talking about the nagging knapsack of negativity, the draining duffel bag of doubt, the discouraging duffel bag of defeatism, the agonizing attaché case of anger and anxiety, the sorrowful suitcase of shame, the bulging book bag of bitterness, the grievous garment bag of guilt, the loathsome luggage of low self-esteem, the remorseful rollabout of resentment and rejection, the heavy handbag of hopelessness, and the purposeless pouch of procrastination. We all got some baggage. You got baggage, I have baggage, all of God's children have some baggage. Turn to your neighbor and say, neighbor, you got baggage. Now turn to that neighbor that was hoping that you were not going to turn to them and say, and you do too. We all have baggage. Every single one of us, from the pew to the pulpit, all of us have some form of baggage that we carry. Historical baggage. Stuff that we picked up from our past, stuff that happened in our upbringing that has now shaped us and has molded us and has had an impact upon who we are today. Baggage. Because you didn't receive the affirmation and the love that you felt that you should have received as a child, you now have an issue whereby it's difficult for you to embrace relationship. That's baggage. Matter of fact, your Thanksgiving holidays was not as wonderful as it could have been because there is some domestical baggage in your family. Oh, come on and talk to me. You're upset with your auntie because your auntie said something about your mama, and because they said something about your mama, you don't like your auntie no more. Come on now. Baggage. You decided you didn't want to. As a matter of fact, you've already made plans. You're not going to the family Christmas function because there's some baggage in the family. I want to share with you today how to handle some baggage. It is here in Hebrews chapter 12 that the writer of the book of Hebrews says to us that we are encompassed about by so great a cloud of witnesses. He's referring back to chapter number 11, and he is saying, based upon all of these predecessors of faith, that we ought to be inspired to run our Christian race. He talks about how by faith Abel, verse number 4, how by faith Enoch, how he was being translated and should not see death. Even verse number 7, how by faith Noah had prepared an ark. Even by faith Abraham in verse number 8. And then he comes down and he talks about even Isaac by faith in verse 20. Jacob by faith in verse 21. And even Joseph by faith in verse number 22. And how Moses lived a life of faith. And even beyond that, how in verse 29 they passed through the Red Sea by faith. Even the walls of Jericho, verse 30, fell by faith. He says the life that we live is what, church? A life of what? Faith. For the just shall live by faith. We walk by faith and not by sight. For without faith, it's impossible to please him. So here is what the writer of the book of Hebrews is saying. The writer of the book of Hebrews is saying, looking back to the predecessors of faith, those who preceded us in biblical antiquity, they ought to motivate us and inspire us to run our Christian race. He says, but if you're going to run this Christian race, and if you're going to run it successfully, there's an injunction in the text. Look at the injunction in the text. In verse number 1, he says, here's the injunction. If you're going to run this Christian race successfully, you must do what, church? Lay aside every what? Weight and what else? Definite article. And the sin that does what, church? So easily beset us. He says we must lay aside every weight. May I submit and suggest to you from a practical perspective that the weight for us today can be our emotional baggage. The weights, here it is, because weights are designed, here it is, to hold us down. There's at least 3 different impacts that come into the life of the believer as a result of walking around with weight. Here it is, 3 things, here it is. First of all, weight will impede our progress in life. It is hard to go forward in life. It is hard to advance in life when you're weighed down. It is hard, here it is, to make any forward movement in life when you have a whole bunch of weight upon you. Because weight, brothers and sisters, here it is now, will impede your progress in life. Consider where you are right now. and you had resolutions at the beginning of the year in 2013 that you would be much further than where you are right now. Could it be that you have not advanced as far because you're weighed down with some stuff? Because weights would do what, church? Impede our progress in life. But weight would not only impede our progress in life, but weight, second of all, here it is, will have an impact upon our partnerships in life. Our partnerships in life. Those wonderful partnerships that God has brought into our lives, when you're weighed down with these weights, if you would, the baggage, if you would, it will have an impact upon your partnership. There's at least 3 partnerships that you and I must have in life if we're indeed going to be successful. Here it is. Number 1, a partnership with the omnipotent. That's God himself. But I will never have an enjoyable fellowship with God when I am weighed down with guilt, shame, and condemnation. In other words, for me to run this Christian race, I must rid myself. I must eliminate. I must eradicate from my life. Here it is. Every weight that would have an impact upon my partnership, my fellowship with God. Because weights would have an impact upon your partnership with God. Was it not David, as a result of his sin with Bathsheba, that said in Psalms 51, restore unto me, what, church? The joy of my salvation. Apparently the weight of guilt and shame and condemnation had robbed him of his joy. His partnership with the omnipotent. But then weights again will have an impact upon our partnership, or how we, here it is, embrace ourselves. The Lord gives a command to his disciples. He says, you have to love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, with all thy mind, with all thy soul, with all thy strength. And then love, here it is, thy neighbor as thyself, thy neighbor as thyself, thy neighbor as thyself, thy neighbor as thyself, thy neighbor as thyself. But I can never love folks on the horizontal if I don't have my love right on the vertical. Love the Lord thy God, that's the vertical. And here it is, when I have my vertical relationship and fellowship right, I then can love horizontally. I can love my neighbor as myself. Can I show you what he